And so the things that help an AI model refer your brand are the same things that help humans refer your brand, which is a strong brand presence, earned media, trust, and kind of presence across sources. And I think that there's really going to be a renaissance in PR in the next 5 or 10 years as this becomes, as marketing kind of makes a return from gaming a specific algorithm to building a strong and enduring brand.
Welcome to On Top of PR with Jason Mudd.
Hello, welcome to On Top of PR. I'm Jason Mudd, your host from Axia Public Relations. Today, we're talking about the PR playbook for getting recommended by AI apps. We have a guest today. I'm joined by Keller Maloney. Keller is the co-founder of Unusual, a platform that he built with his co-founder, Will, to help marketers understand and influence how AI models perceive their brands. Their work takes classic PR principles and applies them to a new audience, artificial intelligence. A Los Angeles native, Keller went on to Princeton University, where he earned all-American honors in water polo. Keller, welcome to On Top of PR.
Thanks for having me, Jason. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here too. Water polo is not something I knew that you specialized in until I got your bio here, but that's very cool. How did you get into water polo?
My dad played, and it's not something a lot of people know about in general.
Right.
I'm originally from LA, as you said, and California, it's a big thing. Lots of public high schools have pools. Which is awesome. But when I went over to the East Coast in Princeton, I would tell folks I played water polo, and they'd ask me how they kept the horses from drowning. And so I'm glad to know I consider it a small win that you even know what it is.
I swear somebody earlier this week made the same joke about that. And I don't know how that even came up now that you mentioned it. So, Well, Keller, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your experience, and more specifically, what made you get interested in creating a platform for PR pros?
Yeah, absolutely. My co-founder, Will, Jack, and I run a company called Unusual. We're Y Combinator backed. And to your point, we drive more leads for brands by helping them change how ChatGPT and other AI models talk about them. The big kind of problem that PR folks and marketing professionals are facing today is that AI is increasingly a middleman between brands and their customers. In 2024, there were 700 million conversations with ChatGPT about purchasing a product. And we're seeing just these AI models kind of disintermediate lots of our traditional digital marketing channels like Google search. And, we see organic web traffic dropping off 15 to 25% across the entire internet, zero click traffic, meaning the percentage of Google searches that end without clicking into one of the blue links is at almost 60% today. And so I think this is kind of an existential threat for a lot of digital marketers and just brands that rely on that channel, which is almost every brand today. And so we, both my co-founder and I have a deep background in AI interpretability research. My co-founder especially has been working in AI since the Stone Age of 2014. And so we decided to kind of see if we could help out brands in this space.
Very nice. Very nice. So our topic today is the PR playbook for getting recommended by AI apps, AI platforms, whatever you want to call them. AI as a new audience, right? That's what we want to talk about. And so, we're seeing some good data that's come out saying that, 95% of AI citations come from PR content. So the timing for this is very relevant. So let's jump right in and kind of share our audience, your perspective and your insights on AI as a new audience.
Yeah. I think that the long short of it is that brands are having a harder time communicating directly with their customers, and they almost have to communicate through AI models, right? I mean, I'm sure this is not a huge surprise to any of your listeners here, right? I mean, I've used ChatGPT to figure out which hiking backpack to buy, to how to cook a Thanksgiving turkey, to which CRM I should go with for my business. And so increasingly, humans are trusting these models with more and more of their purchasing decisions. And the argument that, we can obviously get a little bit more into this later, but a lot of folks are treating this like SEO for AI. And our argument is that it makes a lot more sense to approach these models like a new human audience to understand and then to persuade.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I just posted today, and of course today is November 26th, the day before Thanksgiving 2025. And I share that because by the time this airs, it'll be a later date and things change quickly in the AI world. But today I posted on LinkedIn just kind of saying, look, guys, generative engine optimization is not just SEO 2.0. And I'm seeing a faction of people who are search engine optimization focused individuals. And that's their stance. They're going around just saying, this is all overrated and it's just search engine optimization. And, and I'm seeing them even double down on it. And I think that the more you're doubling down on it, the more I think you're showing a lack of appreciation of what's really happening right in front of your eyes. And it almost comes across as being, desperate or, trying to self-validate in many ways. And so my post today on LinkedIn was just as simple as saying, if 95% of AI citations come from PR content, is your SEO guy really good at making PR content? I highly doubt it. And that's all I want to say about it. I don't want to go any further than that. That's just kind of what I wanted to express to my LinkedIn audience. And literally every day in the same scroll, I can see one person saying it's just search and optimization 2.0. And I can see someone else saying, this is really needs, a PR person to be going and doing what PR does best. So I think I know your take on that, but share more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that SEO is important for this, and I can get into a little bit more of the details there later. But I think it's easy to see why your first reaction is to say that this is just an SEO part two, right? You see Google and SEO and organic traffic dropping. At the same time, you see ChatGPT traffic increasing dramatically. And so it's easy to look at those two trend lines and think, okay, great, let's just do SEO for ChatGPT. But this fails for two reasons. The first is that AI models don't work like search engines. And then the second is that people use AI models for a lot more than just search and discovery. And can dig into that more if you'd like.
I would actually. So let's go into both of those a little bit based on, your insights and your observations. You want to start with the first one? Yeah,
absolutely. So the first reason why just kind of treating this problem like SEO part two is incomplete is that it overlooks the fact that AI models behave fundamentally differently than search engines. And in fact, I'll actually argue that AI models behave a lot closer to sort of fallible, biased humans than algorithms. The first of which is kind of an inconsistency or a personalization, a matter of inconsistency or personalization, right? No matter who asked Google a question, a specific query, Google gave the same ordered list of search results. And the job of SEO is to just climb that static list. But if you, Jason, and me, Keller, and every single one of your listeners ask ChatGPT, what hiking shoes should I buy? Every single one of us would get a different answer, personalized based on what ChatGPT knows about us in the past, where it thinks we like to hike, our budget, right? A whole bunch, all of these constraints that we have either plugged into that exact conversation about the hiking boots or from the past. And that's actually a feature of these platforms rather than a bug, right? It's personalizing its answer to be as helpful as possible to you and to nobody else. And then the second reason that I brought up is that AI models, or that people use these models for more than just search and discovery. And if you ever talk to ChatGPT and Claude and Grok, you can tell that these models sort of have distinct personalities, especially if you talk to Grok. It's not a huge jump to say that they actually have opinions, and they inject those opinions during a conversation. So the average ChatGPT conversation is 8 messages long, and that's such a different interaction than just a one-turn Google search.
Right. Yeah, no, it can become a conversation, and in fact, that's something that I've really enjoyed doing. Is either on a long walk or a long drive or something, I might just start a conversation with the voice capability, specifically with ChatGPT. And I've had some fun things like saying, "Hey, I want to have a conversation with you. I want you to act like a business coach. I want you to act like a performance coach. I want you to act like, and I just name a person and, and let's have a conversation about, this or whatever." And I think that's where I'm getting a lot of my learning done. So I enjoy learning. I enjoy walking. So combining those together has been interesting. And, I don't know if I'd recommend this, but I know some people who use that feature hey, I want you to be my mental health therapist, or I want you to be my performance coach and guide me in these areas or whatever. And it's certainly not perfect, but it can be amusing if you, and perhaps helpful if you understand the limitations.
Yeah, absolutely. Before, prior to the release of these models, people would search and discover products via Google, and then they go and do their evaluation, research, comparison, read reviews, kind of through the resources online. That could be on Reddit, that could be on specific review sites, that could be on New York Times Wired, right? Stuff like that. Now all of that is happening is getting compressed into the ChatGPT conversation, right? So ChatGPT is now reading all of these sites, doing all this research, doing all the comparisons and reviews. OpenAI actually on Monday, 2 days before this was recorded, OpenAI just released shopping research, which they say turns shopping into a conversation. So this is kind of the writing on the wall.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And ChatGPT ads are coming soon too. And so, it's all going to be very interesting. I'm very excited about it and glad that we're part of it now early in the, in the equation or in the conversation. So, I know we kind of touched on this a little bit already, but the second point we wanted to get into is why this is a new and unique challenge rather than just search and optimization 2.0. I'm sure you have a few more thoughts to share about that.
Yeah, totally. I think that the key here is that the things that the things that spelled success in SEO were reverse engineering a search algorithm, which was deterministic, and then kind of running the optimal strategy or gaming the system in such a way that you could sort of jump to the top of any of those kind of static ranked ordered lists. AI models are way more complex than that. And overall, I would say that the big takeaway, I think, is that AI models behave a lot more like humans when it comes to actually talking to them giving recommendations, but also they can be convinced a lot more like humans than search engines. So if you give AI models kind of clear claims, real proof, consistent messaging, they reward your brand like a human reviewer would. And that's actually really good news, right? Like you don't need to learn a new algorithm or learn a new that you can game and optimize. You can just do what PR folks have always been excellent at doing, which is building a brand.
Yeah, I got that. I believe that. Hey, I want to jump back for just a second. You threw out kind of 2 factoids that I thought were very interesting. You mentioned that search traffic is down. Did you say 15 to 25%? Was that right?
Yep. That's, I think, out of Bain. They did.
Okay. Bain. Yeah. And then the other stat you threw out was about 60%. And what was that again?
So 60% of all Google searches today end without a click.
Right. 0 click. Right.
Yeah.
And what's the source on that?
I think it was, let me pull that up.
Well, we'll definitely put it in the episode notes later, and if you can find it, that'd be great. But I don't want to get us distracted here with that. But I did just want to kind of figure out what those were. I would ask you this. I mean, I'm hearing this from other digital marketers. I'm hearing this from other PR pros about the 15 to 25% search traffic being down. But I've been saying this for months, like our clients, based on the reports I'm seeing, they're not seeing that. And, and so I know it's happening just based on my own use, right, of generative AI. I'm wondering, why that might be that our clients are actually seeing, double-digit percentage increase in this period of time where others aren't seeing it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, this gets into a little bit of what it takes to get AI to recommend you consistently. And so those companies that already have a strong PR presence, that have sort of proof and presence across the internet, across sources, SEO, like I said, helps here, right? So if they have strong SEO, then that helps too. But I think it's kind of like the ultimate Google search algorithm update, right? The update just now no longer Google search. It's now just AI models and LLMs. And so there were always some companies that benefited from a Google algorithm update, and there were some companies that ended up that were trying to game the system. That ended up worse off. And so I think we're seeing the same thing here.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. In fact, I was talking to a digital marketing agency owner last week, and I guess it's harming their business so much that that they're thinking about no longer offering Google Ads and search and optimization, which I thought was a little bit crazy, given how important that is, I would imagine, to their business, and how dramatic their clients are seeing the impact. But I think it's a good case for what we're talking about today, which is more of a holistic approach. People will ask me, well, how do you generate the most leads for your agency? And my candid answer is, I'm not really sure, but I know when I stop doing something, holistically, it impacts ultimately our omnipresence, if you will, for lack of a better word, and the number of leads that we get. So even though one piece of something we might be doing doesn't seem to contribute, the minute we turn it off, we see an impact. And when we turn it back on, it jumps right back. Yeah,
exactly. It's kind of a drop in the bucket thing. Where if you stop kind of adding water to that bucket, it slowly leaks away. And so, and any one thing doesn't feel like it's moving the needle, but integrated over all of your efforts, it's really powerful.
Right. Yeah, totally agree. So let's talk for a minute about the third point we wanted to talk about today, which is from search and optimization to AI relations, or PR for AI, the PR playbook for getting recommended by ChatGPT. That was the second thing we want to talk about. But first of all, we talked about this before we pressed record, Keller. When you say that, ChatGPT, are you just talking about, kind of AI platforms, AI apps in general, or specifically to ChatGPT, and why?
Yeah, it's a good question. The way I'm using it here is just because is as a stand-in for all AI models. I do say ChatGPT because of all of the AI of all the interactions that humans have with chatbots, of all the chatbot sessions across all these models, a massive majority of that is ChatGPT. I think I've seen numbers like 90%. I've seen even higher than that. That's not counting Google's AI overview, right? People are still searching on Google and running into those AI generated summaries. But yeah, I think that what works for each of these models might be slightly different, but they're more similar than they are dissimilar.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So if we want a playbook for getting recommended by ChatGPT, what are the two hurdles that brands need to overcome? Yeah.
So, I mean, similar, I think that, you mentioned, you call this a PR playbook for getting mentioned by ChatGPT. And I think that that's an apt description of this, because the first is you can kind of approach ChatGPT, and the argument that's I'll be making here is that brands will do best by treating these models like a new audience, like a new customer segment. And so the first thing that you need to make sure when marketing to a customer segment is awareness, right? If they don't know you exist, then there's no hope in having them buy your product. And the second is specificity, is to actually get recommended. Is that when ChatGPT is having a conversation with a specific user about their specific problem, they need, in order for that model to recommend you, they need to know that your product or your solution is the best solution for their user's very specific problem. It doesn't matter if you've solved a thousand others that are like this user, but they need to know that you can handle exactly what the user is asking for. These models have been trained to be helpful. Mm-hmm. And so if you help them be helpful, then it will redound to your benefit.
Okay, so the first challenge is to be visible at all, right? The platform, specifically ChatGPT, which we agreed before we pressed record that that's what most people are using, and seems to be in certain areas the superior go-to product. I think others will attempt to catch up.
That's for sure.
And that might just be through, acquisition or otherwise, right? But they need to know that you exist. And the second is what you're saying is the harder piece is to get recommended.
Yep, that's right.
This episode is brought to you by Audible. Enjoy 30 days free of Audible Premium Plus by going to ontopofpr.com/audible.
You're listening to On Top of PR with your host, Jason Mudd. Jason is a trusted advisor to some of America's most admired and fastest growing brands. He is the managing partner at Axia Public Relations, a PR agency that guides news, social, and web strategies for national companies. And now, back to the show.
Where do you recommend, let's say somebody's listening to this and they're like, this is exactly what I need for our company. This is what my leadership team needs to hear, or this is what my leadership team has tasked me with. If you're that public relations practitioner, and honestly, I mean, a lot of our audience is a marketing director, a marketing vice president, a chief marketing officer, who's looking to get more familiar with PR. Where do they get started?
Yeah. Those two hurdles, what often happens is that there's a bottleneck for brands at one of those two hurdles. If you're an established brand like, Salesforce, and I'm asking about what's the best CRM for my company? Well, ChatGPT will always consider Salesforce, right? There's just enough content out there. It's a well-known brand. But for Salesforce, it might be that, I run a startup. It might be kind of legacy. It might be too expensive. There's a whole bunch of reasons not to choose Salesforce for me or recommend Salesforce. But for a lot of brands, and I imagine for a lot of folks listening, their main concern is visibility or awareness, right? Making sure that ChatGPT even considers them an option when someone's asking for a specific query related to their company or their brand. In that case, in that sort of visibility and awareness challenge, traditional SEO takes you a long way, right? Just having your content out on the internet, in these models training data, which if you put it on the internet, these research labs are kind of constantly scraping and pulling the entire internet into their training corpuses. And then the models themselves, when you ask them a question, will often, fan out and send agents to sort of search the internet for various queries. So, if I look up, hey, what's the best CRM for my company? It will go and make, 10 or 11 searches. It will come back. It will look at the results. These aren't necessarily Google searches. ChatGPT has actually built its own search engine under the hood. But the real key is earned media. And, like convincing a human, convincing earned media and kind of corroboration across trusted sources goes a really long way in helping these models find out about your brand and then determine that you are legitimate enough to consider as a recommendation for their customer.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense to me. I think that I like to think 90% of our audience is going to know exactly what we mean when we say earned media, especially if they've been listening long enough. But I recently, was speaking to a group of marketing and somebody raised their hand and said, "Can you clarify what earned media means?" And so I want to give the benefit to our audience and give you a chance to explain that to them as well.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, Jason, you're much more of a PR pro than I am, but my understanding of earned media and what I mean in this case is, let's say any source online or accessible that talks about your brand. That could be a listicle. It could be kind of a roundup of, hey, here are the 17 best running shoes for 2025.
Right.
But it could also be, an exclusive article interviewing your founder. It could be any type of media that's essentially, I would also even include Wikipedia and Reddit. So anything that a piece of media that you do not own as a brand, but where you can show up and ideally show up in a positive light.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the Muckrack study, that found that the, 5% of AI citations come from PR content, categorize that as earned media and journalistic content. And honestly, I had to be like, well, what's the difference? And I didn't really think that through, but journalistic content means exactly that. It's like a subcategory of earned media that's specifically done by a journalist. And then earned media, I guess, is more broadly about, analyst content and different, third parties writing about you is categorically earned media. And, it wasn't shocking to me that was the clarification, but I've always just bolted it on or grouped it all together as earned media.
Yeah, definitely. The way that these models, it's worth mentioning the way these models kind of do their initial research and make their initial searches is they'll, similar to a human might do. When you ask, hey, what are the best hiking boots? It will first prioritize these kind of general roundups, listicles, stuff like that, and compile a short list in its mind, right? So, hey, here are 20 different candidates that I can consider for the user asking me this question. Mm-hmm. And then, like a human as well, it'll narrow down its research and go and do research on each of those 20 candidates or short list items. And so kind of getting in those roundups, listicles, Reddit threads, whatever, whatever matters for your brand. And there's, a way of figuring that out that we can dive more into, but that usually goes a long way.
I mean, if you're comfortable, let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this, gets into the question of you asked, hey, where does a PR pro, where does a marketer start here in kind of deploying a strategy for AI, for getting your brand more recommendations by AI models? So one of the first step is to figure out how ChatGPT views your brand. On the one side of that spectrum, the results could be that ChatGPT doesn't know you exist. You really got to do a lot of work there with earned media, with traditional SEO, and make sure you're visible across surfaces on the internet. But a lot of the time, the models will actually consider your business, but just can't find the specific evidence. And these models are very pedantic, right? So they'll check their sources. They've been trained to. This has been we all hear about hallucinations, right? The way that these research labs have reduced hallucinations is made these models check over their work. So if you say on your website, hey, we serve, we're a law firm and we specialize in patent law, and we also can do corporate litigation. Well, ChatGPT, if a user is trying to find a corporate litigator and ChatGPT sees that on your website, it will say, okay, cool. Let me see if I can find any evidence for that. And, it's unclear to me that this firm can actually does a good job or specializes in corporate litigation. And it would be good for my user to respond with a recommendation that actually has some specialty in this space. And you can actually see how the model is thinking about this. On some of these new models, they have a kind of internal train of thought that you can pull out when you ask it specific questions. And it's a hugely rich source of information. I mean, you can imagine if you could sit down with your customers, ask them questions related to your brand, but you also could just, stick a brain probe in them and hear how they're thinking. Not only what they're saying to you, but also actually how they're thinking about it, how they're feeling about it. And so, I'd suggest going and surveying these models with questions that you might survey to customers, right? Does the model think you're premium? Does it think you're budget? Does it think you're better for enterprises or for startups or SMBs? Look into that train of thinking or that chain of thought, and then look at the sources that it's looking at and it's pulling from, and see what's informing or driving these opinions. And once you actually understand all this stuff at a deep level, it becomes pretty easy to fix it. Yeah.
Okay. So you've got a conclusion to all that's going on here. I want to give you an opportunity to share that. And then I've got a couple of follow-up questions for you.
Yeah, totally. I think the big takeaway here is that getting more AI recommendations looks a lot more like PR than anything else. The way that these, I've been arguing this whole time, or been making the point this whole time that AI models act a lot more like humans with biases, with fallibility than anything else, than search engines. And so the things that help an AI model refer your brand are the same things that help humans refer your brand, which is a strong brand presence, earned media, trust, and kind of presence across sources. And I think that there's really going to be a renaissance in PR in the next 5 or 10 years as this becomes, as marketing kind of makes a return from gaming a specific algorithm to building a strong and enduring brand.
Nice. Yeah, I like that too. I feel like the renaissance is happening right now, right in front of us. And like you said, probably continue for the next several years. But anything can change in a moment, and all that. So I want to give you the opportunity to kind of share a little bit more about your company, Unusual. It's online at unusual.ai, and kind of give an elevator explainer, not necessarily a pitch, but an explainer of the platform and what it does and who's a good customer for it.
Yeah, absolutely. We tend to work with brands that have larger and more established brands that ChatGPT that are not quite so bottlenecked by visibility and are more bottlenecked by specificity. So I'll give you an example of how we'd work with one of our customers, and this might be an illustrating example for just how ChatGPT might be failing to give you the recommendations that you deserve. One of our customers is a document parsing tool, so they can essentially pull out information and data from your company documents like PDFs. They're small. They've only been around for a couple of years, but they work with the Fortune 10, so some of the largest companies ever created. Well, what we did for them was we ran a brand survey on ChatGPT and other AI models. So asking ChatGPT questions, thousands of questions, like, hey, do you think, X company is more of a premium solution or a budget solution? Would you recommend it more for enterprises? Do you think it's enterprise ready? Or do you think it's more of a solution for startups and SMBs? Rank X company on its customer support from 1 to 10, right? These are questions that you could level towards one of your customers or prospects. We were doing it towards ChatGPT. And what we can then do is pull out the responses, look at the reasoning, look at the searches that it makes, and kind of find patterns and insights throughout, and then get a sense for how ChatGPT views that brand, right? So, and as it turns out, ChatGPT thought, despite them working with Fortune 10 companies, ChatGPT thought that this company was a niche or kind of vertical solution, better for startups and small and medium companies. Well, that seriously costs, that hurts them, right? And so what we can then do is go and help them publish content and suggest content, actually create some content that highlights their enterprise readiness. And what we can see is, over a month or two, the perceptions start to change. And I think that's, I appreciate you letting me plug the business, but I think that's actually a good example of just how this playbook could be run, and also how a misconception in the model can seriously harm the inbound that you should be getting from these models.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. In a previous episode, I talked about how an engineering firm hired us because they had experienced rapid growth. And the principals still thought that, most people thought they were like more of a mom and pop engineering firm.
Yeah.
And they wanted us to create a PR program to overcome that. Mm-hmm. And I just said, hey, would you let us talk to the market? Give us a list of 50 people you think are influencers and past customers, current customers, whatever. And so we can kind of survey them and see what their perception is to affirm what you're saying is true. And they really didn't want us to. And I've shared this story before on the podcast. And so we talked to 50 different people that were influential in the space. And only one of them thought they were still like a mom and pop, kind of organization. And so I explained to the client, hey, we could have spent a year or more trying to change a perception that didn't need to be changed. Sure. We could have worked towards, changing people's minds when it was a perception that you had internally, whether that was just your internal understanding or imposter syndrome or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
And it's reminding me of that story, in that, we saved this client, a year of investment in PR by doing, a month's worth of some, due diligence, which paid off very well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I know you said at the very beginning, Jason, there's and I saw that LinkedIn post that you posted. It's funny to me that there's such a hesitancy to accept this new challenge with a fresh mind on, that it looks a little bit more like PR than SEO. Because in many ways, SEO was all about trying to peer into a system that you didn't quite fully understand. And it was a little bit like reading the tea leaves at times. And what's so cool about this new challenge is that it's just a lot more, it's a lot more natural, right? It's just about, you need to build a brand, you need to build trust. And I'm optimistic about the sort of future of marketing here in general, about returning to something where marketing used to just be about telling people what you do and trying to help people. And I think that's what it's going to return to.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that, helping people is the big thing. I mean, I tell people all the time that, I'm not sure how I got into PR. I mean, I know my own story, but the truth is I'm a problem solver who likes to help people, and I'm pretty good at communicating about it. Yep. So, and I think at the end of the day, the best PR work is helping people, educating people. I think Steve Jobs is famous for saying, advertising helps with sales, but good PR educates. And at the end of the day, my PR firm has grown the more that I become focused on educating buyers of PR firm services and educating my team on, what I'm seeing and what I'm perceiving and my insights to help them become better PR practitioners.
Yeah, absolutely. And these, I think you can extend that to the challenge with AI models, right? Is that they are very smart. ChatGPT is smarter than me now for sure, but has lots of misconceptions about my business, the world, our customers, our ICP, and the kind of the goal of PR for AI is to just educate the model on who you can help and how well you can help them. It's actually quite simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think we could all benefit from being a little more helpful and a little bit more kinder to each other, especially as we're, entering the holiday season, but of 2025. Of course, by the time this airs, it'll probably be 2026. But Keller, I think this was a great conversation. I want to thank you for being here today and being helpful to our audience by sharing your insights. We'll be sure to link to your website, to your LinkedIn profile. Is there a preferred way that you would want people to connect with you? And also we'll put a link to book a demo with your unusual solution as well.
Yeah. Please feel free to email me at keller@unusual.ai. You can also hit both Will and I. I think, Jason, I think you should chat with Will at some point in the future. He's an awesome guy and incredibly smart and kind of well read and well thought out through this, a lot of the challenges we're facing here. And so you can hit him at will@unusual.ai or just both of us at founders@unusual.ai. We'd love to chat with anyone who's coming from Jason is a friend of ours.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you. I appreciate that. So with that, that's been another great episode of On Top of PR, where we're doing our best to just do exactly that, help you stay on top of PR. If you enjoyed this episode, would you take a moment and share it with a friend or colleague who you think would benefit from this episode? And if we could just ask as well, would you leave us a review on the platform you're consuming this content right now? If you're on YouTube, make sure you're subscribing. If you're on Apple or some other platform, take a moment to just leave us a review. We would really appreciate that. That's how our audience grows. And the bigger our audience gets, the more value we can bring to you. And so we really appreciate you tuning in and helping you allowing us to help you stay on top of PR. Be well.
This has been On Top of PR with Jason Mudd, presented by ReviewMaxer. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and check out past shows at ontopofpr.com.